Hello everybody and welcome. It's Wednesday and I thought I would show you my finished piece for block 1 for Rachel and Sarah's Roxy's Journal of Stitchery, and then I thought we'd do a few stitch experiments so we can have a look at how the 6-stranded cotton acts by using different strands and on different fabrics, because I think things like getting to know what you can do with your threads is going to be really, I find it useful anyway for myself, and I think it's going to give you so much more variety of what you can do moving forward for the next 5 blocks when Sarah and Rachel announced them. So I know today is announcement day, I believe. It should be the first Wednesday of the month. They're doing what I'm excited to find out what we are doing for the next block, and I'm sure most of you are that are enjoying this. Enjoying it. I was going to say enjoying and joining in this. So first of all, this is mine. I wanted it to be quite simple. I didn't want to over embellish it this time. We want the bunny to be the star. So if you recall, I showed you how to turn an image on paper into more of a fabric so that you can use it in your stitchery projects. So there is my bunny. The prompts were to use the bunny and then antique vintage lace as background. So this is a really old piece, and I wanted that hanging over the side because it'd be nice to have, you know, edges and bits and bobs. Once I know what the next block's going to be, my idea will be to have some sort of decorating around the edges, or we might have some beads hanging off or little charms hanging off. So I've left that as is. It's stuck on to my page. So on the back we've got my title page there, and this is where the next block's going to be. So I've got all sorts of old fabrics from my stash, and I didn't want to put too much embroidery on. So I've sort of done like a canvas style in the background pieces. And then I've added French knots, which this is done with chenille thread. And I think we'll sort of have a look at that and have a play with that. Chenille thread. I've done some delicate, down the edge of this lace, some delicate, oh, my mind's gone blank, can't think what they're called now. French knots, bullion knots. So bullions down there, and then look at the difference between these. These are bullion that are done with chenille, and I've done them right on the edge. I've done them going over the edge, so we get that bit of a edge feel to it. And then at the bottom I've done some more French knots along here. And the thing that we found with doing French knots in chenille, you do get this lovely texture, this lovely. So my idea with this was more textured than loads and loads of embroidery stitches. I've also saw me put a really old button on here, and we've got a little cutie pie here. We've got a little bunny. So this little bunny is on a ring, and I've just and a little bead, and she is on there playing on that little area of lace there. And that is it. I've left it simple for that one. There's been some fabulous ones that everybody's doing, and some really intricate sewing and everything, but that's my piece. So let's have a look at looking at how our threads perform. Now I've got a few scraps here of different sorts of fabric. So I have got some cheesecloth here that I avocado dyed and frayed. I've got a little bit of wadding, because you do get a different effect when you've got wadding behind it. You can get more of a quilted effect, and you know, you can achieve that. If you haven't got wadding, you can achieve that with a dry baby wipe. I've got an assortment really here of upholstery fabrics, and I thought, and also I've got some muslin, some calico as we call it, but I know muslin, I think you call it muslin in the States, don't you, Nola? I think that's what you told me. And then I've got a little bit of felt in case we want to use that as some backing or try the stitch on that. So let's have a look and see what different effects we can get. Now, the thing is that with the stranded cotton, generally speaking, you get 6-stranded cotton. And this has been, let me take that out, that was from yesterday from my sewing. I've got 3 colours here that I thought, well, we'll have a bash with these to see what they look like. First of all, I thought that we would see what 6 strands looks like on a variety of fabrics, and then go down obviously to, we'll go down to 4, 3 and then 1, something like that. And I'm going to put this bit of wadding, I think, on here to start with. Let's cut that up. This is very old. It's very friable. This probably dropped to bits. It's some really old cotton. Okay then. And I thought I've chosen, ooh, that's got glue on it or something. Ugh. I think I better have been poking my glue with it. Okay. Let's try this lovely blue. And the thing with this is that with the 6-stranded, that if you're just starting your collection, of threads, it's something new that you're starting, then, you know, it's an inexpensive, and I say this is from Amazon, and you can get all the colours in the rainbow for about £20. Not quite DMC quality or anchor quality, but still very good. Right, that's okay. We'll start with the 6-strand then. But I want you to show you options. So, yeah, loads of us have got a big assortment of different threads, but you know, like I've been collecting them for a long time, and you know, it is an expensive hobby when, you know, you have to do it bit by bit. So hopefully you'll get the gist that if you're just starting out and you have just got this for the whole of the project with your 6-stranded cotton, hopefully you can see how you've got loads of choices for doing your, you know, your stitchery page with this 6-stranded cotton. Okay, so I'm just going to do, have I got a sharp needle? Yeah. I'm just going to do a running stitch. It's nothing going to be anything fancy. It's not going to be level. And you can feel it actually going through the quilted backing. Okay, so this is with 6 strands. Now, I'll take it down to there because that's where our wadding ends. I'm going to do another row. And hopefully you can start to see by having something wadding on the background, you know, you can start to see a bit of a quilting effect. You're getting those undulations a bit in your fabric. Now the other thing that you can play with is to alter the size of your stitch. And I know that might sound so easy and simple, and we think, oh, she's, you know, I'm not trying to teach you to suck eggs, but sometimes we don't think of the simple, do we? So alter the length of your stitch. This is all again with 6 strands, but alter the length of your stitch and you will get slightly different results. We can do a really small one. And the other thing is, think about how much space you've got between your rows. Do you want them to be, you know, just a small amount of space and all in a, you know, if you're wanting to do a lot of building up stitches? Or do you want them to be really wide and really spaced out? So I'm just doing some smaller stitches now. And you might think, well, actually, for what I'm doing here, I think that is a bit too thick. I think it's too thick a look for the fabric that I'm using. It's quite delicate, this obviously this very fine cotton. So you might think that, well, actually I want to see what else we can get if I start splitting the wool down. So let me just finish that off and we'll, okay, so we'll split this. And some people, I tend not to, I tend to just split it all at the top and then slowly unpeel it. And I've got my 3 on either side, yeah, and I just slowly unpeel it and just let it, don't do it too fast because you end up in a big knot. And I slowly let it unravel like that. Now some people, and especially some real pure embroiderists, I don't know if that's a word, they like to split all the strands down into the separate components and then put them together as the number they want. And I think it's all about how it twists or whatever, I think, but it's up to you how you feel you want to do it. So we've got 3 strands now. Okay, so let's have a look how these 3 strands perform. It's because I haven't put a knot on the end. I have to remember not to pull it through. And straight away you can see what a difference, can't you? You haven't quite got the thickness that we had. Well, you're not going to because you haven't got 6 strands, but this is a more delicate look. There we go, on the page. And then, you know, you might decide, again thinking about how close you want it to go, wonky stitch in there, eh? If you want it to go very closely to the line in front, that can be part of your design. Now the other thing to consider, because it's all not always about the thread and what the thread's doing, sometimes it's your spacing, what your space is doing. do you want your space to give you the look you want on your stitchery piece? So for example, if you're doing it all much the same stitches, it's going to be pretty even. But say for example, I'm not going to have enough wool here, am I? Leak it out. Say for example you do a stitch and you want there to be a big gap here. So you want the gap to be your feature. You can do that as well. So it's like thinking about negative space, you know. So what sort of effect do I want? Do I want the thickness? Do I want it to be uniform in roughly the same sort of length of stitch like that? Do I want to do big stitches, small stitches? And what sort of space do I want between each row, and then the space, don't forget the space between each stitch, because that can all add to the different look. And again, we've not done anything different in style or whatever. We're just thinking about space and the number of strands. So let's try it now. If we want a really fine look, let's take it down, see how many we've got on this grey. Let's take it down to 1. It may be that you are doing a really, this is where you have to, you know, just let it unwind itself and pull it out, and just let it unwind. Okay, I'll cut that off there. So it may be that you're doing a very delicate flower, say, and yes, if you've got loads of choices of threads, you may well go down to a really fine perlé, or you may go down to, there are some very fine DMC. You might consider using some of the sashiko fine threads for Japanese embroidery. So you can do it with the different type of thread you use. But for example, what my whole idea of this is, if you've only got, you know, you're just starting, you've only got this selection of threads, how are you going to achieve different things? And we're going to do something really delicate now. So we've got 1 strand. Now I'm going to start, we've got a little bit of wadding left here, and I'm just going to use the wadding. The other thing that I know, you know, we've got some grey here which is slightly different colour, but sometimes you get a different, you don't quite get as much shine to your work. There's quite a lot of shine there when you've got the full threads, but you might not be wanting that. So if we're doing a really, say we're doing some really delicate little stamens in the middle of a flower, you may well just use 1 strand to be delicate. And you can see that's totally different, isn't it? So we'll just do another row. The thing with these little, you know, you can also try these different experiments, as I call them, for want of a better word. You know, you can have these ready in your stash. So you might do this little pattern in here. This is getting on my nerves, so I'm going to cut that off. And then you might decide that you're going to add it on your page. You know, it might be part of your design you want to do. So it may be that you've had a little practice, you're having a look at how your threads are going, and then you might decide that you're going to put that in your background. You can see on your page, you can see the differences. You've got different texture and different look. just with those few bits. So you know, and even if for those of you that are more journalers and you're not doing the Roxy project, I do things like this so that I've always got them handy to put in journals. They're great to stick on the edges of journals or decorate a pocket. Now I'm just going to quickly show you. We're now onto this cotton without any backing. For a start, this great big needle is, unless you want great big stab holes, that might be part of your pattern, but you can see that you don't need quite such a big needle on this thin fabric. It was alright while we got the wadding behind, and that lays quite flat now. You might not be able to tell from the camera, but this has got that bit of a bunched up quilted feel to it because we've got our wadding on the back. This is laying very nice and very flat, and that might be what you're aiming for, but definitely consider the size of your needle point if you are using very fine fabrics and very fine thread, and especially like a lot of us use vintage, we're using old scraps and vintage bits and bobs. You've got to be mindful that the fabric is very delicate. I mean, this, you just go like that and it rips, look. So just bear that in mind. Okay. Generally speaking, I mean, this is 6, this is 3, and this is down to 1. Sometimes I'd use 4. I don't think 4 feels too different to using 6 together for me personally, so I tend to like use 6, 3 or 1. But see how lovely and delicate the 1 strands are, and especially say if you're doing some seed stitching, so you're doing some filling in stitching in the background, you could do it, obviously I've done it in a brighter colour, but you could do it in like a very pale creamy pink like this and do small seed stitch with 1 strand, and it'll be noticeable, but it's not in your face because obviously you want it as a filling in stitch. You don't want it to be part of your big design, as it were. So I don't underestimate how useful 1 thread can be. Right, let's have a look. What shall we use next? Tell you what, we're going to have some, I think we'll have this big upholstery fabric here. Okay, let's do some purple on it so we can see it. Very clashy, but hey ho. So we're going to try 6 on this, and let's say I've got my pencil here. Let's say we want to fill a leaf in. That's our leaf we want to fill in, and we want to, so therefore we've decided we're going to use satin stitch. And generally speaking, it's a good thing to start in the middle. We've got 6 strands, and we're just going to slowly fill it in. I mean, I know I'm not going to use bright purple on gold, generally speaking, but we're just working our way along, filling in the leaf. I know I could have chosen green. And we can see how that's given us a really bold look to our leaf. There. Now what if we don't want that, because there's quite a raised texture to that as well. So say for example we've got a small delicate leaf that we want to do. That's going to be, we don't want it to be that big and that proud, so I'm going to take it down. We'll take this down to 3. And we'll see. Have I got them all in there? I haven't. That's what happened yesterday. It all ended up like a bird's nest because I've not put all the strands in. It's my eyesight, you know, it's dodgy. Okay, so we've got 3 now. We've got our leaf here. Let's have a look what this gives us. So you're doing your satin stitch, you're filling it in. And I actually like it with 3 better. I feel as if that's too thick. And I know we're on some thick upholstery fabric, but I prefer the look we're getting with the 3 strands. So have a play with it really, and it does alter. You know, if you're doing a really chunky design and you've got loads of big florals and you're doing a lot of filling in, and Rachel and Sarah are great at, you know, they do some fabulous filling in stitches, long and short, satin stitches on very highly floraled pieces of old, you know, linen, etc. And it looks fabulous. So if you're doing something really chunky and really bold, your whole piece is really bold, then, and you know, it may be that you like using the 6 strands. That's the effect. Everything else is big and bold and textured, and that goes with it. But if you're doing something a little bit more delicate, then consider using less. And I know I'm not doing it the neatest, but you know, this is for demonstration purposes only. So you can see what we get there. Okay. Do we think that there's anything different in this fabric being very thick and very textured? Well, we'll see. I wonder if then one strand will be completely lost on this, because we have got that texture, and the background may well swallow. I've got bits of thread everywhere. May well swallow up you know, a very fine one strand. So we'll have a look. We'll have a look at that. I'm going to do a running stitch. Let's see what we think to this. Now, can you see what I mean? This is a 1 strand, and if we compare it to the 1 strand on, I hope this is all making sense to you. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm talking nonsense. I'm hoping you get it. If you look at it on this very fine fabric, this is really, 1 strand is really still quite striking, and really, you know, is giving you an effect that's noticeable. But when you use your 1 strand on something like this, which is very thick and textured, it's very lumpy, it's got loads of threads in, then really, you know, That one thread isn't that noticeable. I know it's purple. But it's not as noticeable, so that's fine. If, say, we're just doing we want to do a bit of canther on this before we do more bold embroidery on it, then perfect. That's perfect, because a lot of it may end up being covered up, or it may be that you can see it when, you know, you can see it in some lights, you can see it sometimes if you look carefully, but you don't want it to be a big part of your design, but still it's there, you know, it's still there. But the one strand, obviously, on this sort of fabric is more of a background stitch rather than part of your design. Okay, so that's that type of fabric, and you're going to get fabrics all sorts of places in between, aren't you? What I would like to show you is how your French knots, you'll have a different effect with your French knots depending on how many threads you use. So if we get, how many have I got on here? I've got 3. We've got plenty of this, so we'll start with 3 strands. Okay, I just want to show you how the different strands will give a different look to your French knots. I just love French knots. I put French knots on everything. I just love them. I can't seem to get into the swing of the colonial knot. Oh, I get all twisted and inside out, upside down. Right, so this is 3 strands of the 6-stranded. And again, your French knot, you wrap it round once, twice. We're going to do, and we're going to go down, not in the same hole, but just slightly to the right of it, and hold it steady with your less dominant hand and slowly pull through. We'll do another one. So wrap it round once, twice. Now you can, there's no real rules, but generally speaking, if you're doing proper embroidery, they only like you to wrap it twice. If you want a more bold look, the rule of thumb there is generally look at go up in either your number of strands you use or the type and thickness of your cottons, of your threads, your flosses. Okay, so this gives you, we've got 3 strands here, and we're wrapping twice, and it's giving us quite a nice, neat, delicate, pretty knot. Again, if we're doing some delicate, pretty work, this really suits this fabric. If we were doing that on here, we'd hardly see it again, would we? So, you know, your fabric choices and your thread choices, you've got, it's up to you. But I just want to give you options instead of thinking that there's not much you can do if you've only got your 6-strand cotton. Okay, right. Let's do it with 4 strands now. I really like that. I've forgotten how really nice and pretty they look. Okay, so just gently tease your strands. Okay. Till we've got got 4. That'll do us there. We've got 4 strands here. Okay, so let's see what effect we get here with this. Let's do them underneath. So we're wrapping round the same twice. Back down in near to the stitch, hold it carefully so that you don't lose your knots. pull it through, and already you can see that you're getting a different quality to your knots. And if you think you're filling, say for example you want to fill, I did something with poppies on it, if you're wanting to fill something in, you're doing nature, poppies or some, you know, there are so many different variations of texture in real life that, you know, you might decide that you want to fill a flower in and you're going to put French knots all over it, and you're going to use different thicknesses so that you've got different texture. Okay, so that's with using 4. Okay, we're going to use 6 now. Now we haven't altered the number of turns, the number of wraps we've done. All we've done is we've altered our thread. Okay, so we've now got the 6-stranded cotton. We put in 2, take it down below, and through. Got this strand I've got this strand that keeps trying to go down with the thread. If you don't want such a neat knot, you don't have to take it, you don't have to be so precise. You might want it to look all tufty, in which case, you know, you'd leave it loose like that before you pull it through. But if you want it to be a nice little neat knot, hold that tight right next to it till you pull it through, and you get that lovely shaped neat knot. Neat knot, that takes some saying. Neat knot. Okay, hold it down, and you can see, can't you, the difference now. I'll just do one more of these, and you can see that just with the same thread, same strip. So this is all from here. Well, we've used a different colour, but you know what I mean. You don't have to. So what have we got here? We've got 3 choices. We've got using 2 there, 3 there, and 6 there. And hopefully you can see on the camera that just by altering the number in your threads, you've got different looks. So I hope that has made sense. I hope that's useful to you. It's something that it just gives you so much more freedom when you're doing your work, and especially if you, I mean, I'm quite a loose style really. My embroidery is quite loose, quite I don't always have massive plans for it. You know, it just comes as it comes along, and this suits me that I've got more options by just altering the number of threads. And I hope, and especially, you know, if you have got a small selection of threads, that please don't be put off thinking you don't have different choices to use on your page. You know, you do, and think about the negative space. That's important. We don't often think about that, but that can be as important in your design and your page layout as the actual embroidery stitches themselves. So thank you so much for joining me today. Later on today, I'm hoping that we'll get the girlies will have released their videos and we'll know what block 2 is going to be. I'm very excited for it. Next week, I think I'll do some work on my own page, and I think we'll do another type of thread, have a little look at some experiments. So please let me know down below if this is something that's useful to you, and sort of suggestions or types of threads you'd like me to do these experiments with, and we'll have a play together. So thanks for joining me today. Take care. Bye for now.